Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Lunch Break Podcast. I am your host, Reggie. We got an action-packed mini-series coming for you guys. We're going to talk about the Atlanta Falcons training camp and preseason. We're going to break it down into segments. We're going to talk about the offense, the defense, 53-man roster special, as well as react and go over the preseason games. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump right into segment 1 or episode 1 of this mini-series. The mini-series being called the Falcons Camp Confidential Training Camp and Preseason Special. Before we get started, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to Dive Team Media Network on Instagram, all your socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, all of the things, TikTok as well, as also follow other Dive Team Media content creators like LOA Amaker, as he talks about the political scene of the United States and the world. And we also talk about the Splash Cast with Reggie and Norwood, myself and my co-host Norwood. We do HBCU news around the culture, college football, pro football, basketball, whatever we can. So with that being said, here on the Lunch Break Podcast with this mini-series, we are going to start out with the offense and training camp. We are going to talk about what we're looking for the offense to take a step in year 2 of the Zach Robinson scheme, position battles, guys that are on the bubble, and some of our young weapons, and can they all gel together, and can we get the most potential out of all of our young weapons? Kyle Pitts. So let's get started. Let's start out with the obvious. Year 1 of the Michael Penix era for the Atlanta Falcons organization starts now. Michael Penix, going into training camp, has been named QB1, which we all knew was going to happen. QB2 is Kirk Cousins. Michael Penix started shocked. First of all, Terry Fontenot, backstory, Terry Fontenot shocked the world, broke the draft, as others like to say, with drafting Michael Penix. When you draft Michael Penix, of course, that means you put your current quarterback at the time, which is Kirk Cousins, on the hot seat. And Kirk Cousins started out hot, and then some things happened. He got hurt. He lost confidence in the coaching staff, whatever, and he ended up floundering, and Michael Penix came in and took the job, which was the plan anyway. So with that being said, it creates the dynamic of Kirk Cousins. With that being said, it creates the dynamic of Kirk Cousins, who's being paid, I don't know. I think it's $150, $180 million. Getting paid $42 million a year to be a backup. Now, the Falcons have maintained that they will go through the season with Kirk Cousins as the backup. And unless a team decides to come and offer them to take the entire salary off of the salary cap and or give some players back or draft picks back, they are perfectly fine. Raheem and Terry Fontenot are perfectly fine with keeping Kirk Cousins as the backup. All well and good. I expect Kirk Cousins to be gone by the trade deadline. We've already had training camp injuries. Justin Fields had a scare. He has a dislocated toe. I saw a lot of Atlanta Falcons fans immediately throw up the bat signal to try to get Kirk Cousins to the New York Jets. The Minnesota Vikings, of course, with J.J. McCarthy. You never know what you're going to get with him. He was hurt the first season, so you never know what you're going to get with J.J. McCarthy. And, of course, there's other quarterback-needy teams as well. Indianapolis could be one. We don't know anything that they have. So I don't expect Kirk Cousins to be here, but I do expect him to be a model teammate while he is here. Kirk Cousins is known for being a model teammate. He will be a mentor of some sort to Michael Penix Jr. I don't know if he'll be a mentor per se, like a willing mentor, because of course he thinks he's a starter in this league still. So as long as he's here, I do expect him to help Michael Penix. Now, Michael Penix started the last 3 games of the season, I want to say. Won against New York, lost against Washington, lost against Carolina in overtime, lost against Washington in overtime. Um, he completed 61 completions of 105 passing attempts, 775 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But there were a lot of flashes. Kyle Pitts seemed to gel pretty well with him. Drake London did. I think Darnell Mooney said he needed to get an offseason under his belt with him because the ball comes out of his hand different than Kirk Cousins, one being left hand, one being right-handed when it comes to throwing. And then, of course, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Allgeier, and all of the things. So I am excited for the Michael Penix Jr. Era to start in Atlanta. I can't wait for him to really, really get an entire offseason under his belt in the Zach Robinson era. I'm excited for Zach Robinson, to be honest. Zach Robinson took this as a offensive coordinator, but he had never called plays before. I think last year was the first year that he called plays, right? Because he was under the Sean McVay tree, and McVay, calls all the plays and everything. But he did learn a lot of the scheme. And you know that Zach Robinson's scheme is 11 personnel heavy. That's going to be one running back, one tight end, 3 wide receivers, a quarterback. So he prides himself on being multiple. We have one of the top rushing teams in the league with Bijan and Allgeier. Bijan and Allgeier. Make sure that we use Allgeier this year. But the key to unlocking this team and unlocking this offense is going to be Kyle Pitts and Michael Penix Jr. I believe Michael Penix Jr., Darnell Mooney, Ray McCloud, and Drake London are going to be fine. I expect Drake London to be his security blanket. Before this team to take the next step, Kyle Pitts is going to have to become Travis Kelce-esque to Michael Penix Jr. And what I mean is Travis Kelce is the security blanket over the middle of the field for Patrick Mahomes, right? So if Michael Penix Jr. can have Kyle Pitts be that for him, then all of a sudden you can't double team Drake London. You can't put a safety over the top of Ray or Darnell Mooney, the speedster. So you have so many, and then you have Bijan Robinson either on a safety or a linebacker. If Kyle Pitts can turn out to be really, really good and turn into who we thought he was going to be, and I suspect he will because it's a contract year. But if he can turn out to who we thought he was going to be, every down is a mismatch. Every down is a mismatch. You've already seen reports coming out of the first couple of days of camp of Kyle Pitts running at wide receiver. I like being multiple. I don't know about him running at wide receiver because that then bumps Ray McCloud down either down the depth chart or out of the depth chart, right? Because you have your X, your Y. I mean, your X, your Z, your Y is your tight end, or your Y is your slot receiver. If Kyle Pitts is going to take reps at receiver, that you assume that he's going to be the 2 or the Z. Drake London is forever X, and then Darnell Mooney is going to be moved all around the formation. So where does that leave Ray McCloud? Bijan is never coming off the field. I have heard that they are trying to be multiple with Bijan Robinson, meaning putting him in the slot sometimes, having him on the field with Allgeier at the same time. There's no reason that 35 to 40% of our offense, I would say 40%. I'll say 25 to 30% of our offensive plays don't have, or offensive formations don't have Bijan and Allgeier on the field at the same time. If you put all of these weapons in different formations on the field at the same time, you can't stop us. Michael Penix Jr. already said he expects for us, if we're clicking, to be the best offense in the league. High expectations. We also have a lot of young talent on this team. We believe in Drake London. We believe in Bijan. We believe in Allgeier. We believe in Mooney. I think Mooney pretty much is a 1,000-yard receiver at the 2. We believe in Ray. He's reliable. I think he needs to hold on to the ball a little more, but I think he's very reliable and valuable for this team because he plays special teams as well. And then Kyle Pitts, the ultimate unicorn who can be a mismatch if he can get it all together and put it all together. Again, this offense under Michael Penix Jr. if Zach Robinson can tailor this offense to Michael Penix Jr., who has a rocket arm and is more mobile than Kirk, I think that's a big deal. He's Patrick Mahomes mobile. And I don't want to keep saying Patrick Mahomes because if I keep saying Patrick Mahomes, y'all going to think that I'm comparing him to Patrick Mahomes. I'm not. I'm really comparing the style of play and the circumstances around them as young quarterbacks. You know, when Patrick Mahomes came in, he came in at the end of his rookie season. I think he sat for 10 games, and then Alex Smith either got hurt or didn't, or no, he got benched. He got hurt in San Francisco. He got benched, and Patrick Mahomes came in and never left and never ever gave up the starting role again, and everything is history. The same blueprint is being followed by the Falcons with Michael Penix Jr. But the key to that is Patrick Mahomes, again, had Travis Kelce. Michael Penix Jr. needs to get Kyle Pitts. Another quarterback battle that I am very intrigued for the Atlanta Falcons is not quarterback 2. Quarterback 2 is Kirk Cousins until he's traded. Quarterback 3, the third string quarterback, is something to pay attention to going into training camp and all throughout preseason. Why? You have Emory Jones and Easton Stick. Emory Jones and Easton Stick are both practice squad players. I want to say unheralded coming out of college. Emory Jones, I think, came out of Cincinnati by way of Florida. Easton Stick, I want to say, is like Western or Northern Illinois or something like that. But you would assume that these guys are competing for the second string quarterback role if the Falcons are going to get rid of Kirk Cousins. If they plan on trading Kirk Cousins, then all of a sudden, Emory Jones or Easton Stick become your second string quarterback, unless you decide to go in another direction, which you could if you get all that money off the books. But unless you decide to go with another veteran to maybe be your backup to Michael Penix Jr., somebody that wouldn't really be a threat to him, but more of a player coach, kind of like Cade McNown with Josh Allen for all those years, something like that. But for now, based on the depth chart that we have today, Easton Stick is the third quarterback and Emory Jones is the fourth. So I know with the preseason, I think it's only 3 games. If you are old enough to remember, the preseason used to be 4 games. And the way that they used to have to cut the rosters, they'd have to cut down the rosters each game versus making one large, massive cut at the end of preseason. So you can kind of see the shape of your roster come together. But it's not like that anymore. So if it's not going to be like that anymore, you are going to have Easton Stick and Emory Jones fight it out for the third string. And I assume that the loser, depending on how they perform, will be on the practice squad. So that is a very, very intriguing quarterback battle that most won't pay attention to. But I'm telling you now, this is something that you should focus on. Before we move on, I want to say, Michael Penix, let me ask y'all this question. Over, under 17 games, if he gets 300 yards a game, that's 5,100 yards for the season. I don't know if he gets 300 yards a game, especially with the way that we run the ball. How many passing yards over, under for Michael Penix? Over 4,000 or under 4,000 for passing yards this year? Y'all let me know in the comments. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe Dive Team Media Network on all your socials as well. Let's talk about the young weapons. We talked about Kyle Pitts. We talked about the OC. We talked about Bijan and Allgeier. I really, really hope that we have running back balance. I touched on this earlier when we were talking about our weapons in the Michael Penix Jr. era, all coming together for them to work together this offseason and become one of the best offenses. But to me, outside of Kyle Pitts, I think Allgeier being the bell cow workhorse running back and Bijan being the multiple LaDainian Tomlinson, Jahmyr Gibbs type player where should be lined up everywhere is scary. If you put them on the field at the same time, I'm telling you, you don't know where to go. You have to guess. The screen game for Bijan is crazy. You could run the stretch play with Allgeier. You could run double play action pass and throw it to Kyle Pitts. You still have Drake London or Mooney or Ray Ray. If you take Kyle Pitts off the field, there's so many weapons and so many ways to be multiple. I just don't want us to fall in love with putting the game on Michael Penix Jr.'s shoulders. He's shown last year against Carolina, last year against Washington, that he's clutch. The defense didn't show up at the end of the game, but he showed up, drove down the field, lived up to all of the aura that he got from college, freestyling before going to win the game, all of the things. So I hope that we don't fall in love with the lore of Michael Penix Jr. if he becomes who we think he is. You still need a strong running game. And we have a top 5 rushing offense in the league. So for me, I would like to see how Allgeier and Bijan, how many times Allgeier and Bijan line up on the field together. I'm looking for that. I can't wait for it. And then, of course, you got your boys in the trenches. You got your offensive line. You got your hogs, as a lot of people called them from the 80s and 90s. Our offensive line, we now have a new center in Rick Neuheisel. We lost Dalton to Chicago. Our depth chart, other than losing our center, we got Ryan Nuzul. We look pretty stable on the offensive line. I think Jake Matthews has missed 2 games his entire career. One was the birth of his child. Matthew Bergeron has been one of the better draft picks that we've had. So has Chris Lindstrom. We've got our guards set. When you don't have to call their names a lot, that's how you know that they're doing well. We never have to call their names, really. What I am nervous about is Caleb McGarry. So when you have a right-handed quarterback, and we've had right-handed quarterbacks since Vic. Vic was left-handed, and it was Schaub, Matt Ryan, and then all of the other fill-ins, all the other throw-ins, Desmond Ridder, Marcus Mariota. I forgot the other guy that he now plays for the Chargers. I'll think of his name later on. But Heineke, the beard, Taylor Heineke, he plays. They all play. They're all right-handed. So with them being right-handed, the blind side protector was Jake Matthews, who you would assume is your better offensive tackle, your best tackle on the roster. Now that Michael Penix is there, left-handed, man, Caleb McGarry, man, you was getting walked down. Now the Saints was giving it to you. Everybody was giving it to you as backside protector. I need Caleb McGarry to step up and make sure that he could keep Michael Penix Jr. upright. Michael Penix Jr. is mobile, but he does not like to be. Caleb McGarry is who you have to focus on. Behind Caleb McGarry, we have players that I don't know if they can step in right now. If he doesn't perform, you have to probably go to the free agency or the free agency class and see who's there and see what players are on the waiver wire, because behind them, we do have Elijah Wilkinson, who has been in the system, as well as Storm Norton at left tackle and left guard. But right tackle, I think we have Kyle Hinton, and then we have Kyle Hinton at right guard, but we have Brandon Parker, Tyrone Wheatley Jr., and Jordan Williams, all unproven players behind Caleb McGarry. So the right tackle for pass blocking is something that we definitely need to pay attention to. If we can be a very good pass blocking team to complement our run blocking scheme, where we do zone blocking as well as power man on man, if we can get that down and we become middle of the road or, top 12 offensive line and pass pro and a top 5 offensive line and rushing, all of a sudden you put those together, you're looking at something that's amazing. Hopefully we have no problems at center. We do have 4 other centers on the roster for preseason and training camp. So if something falters, we are ready to have basically an open tryout. Let's move on. Let's move on to 2 intriguing players that I hope get a chance. So another position battle that you kind of got to pay attention to is wide receiver 4, maybe 5. I don't know if they carry 5 wide receivers during the regular season, but if they do, 4 and 5 should be interesting. I think wide receiver 4 is locked down. Wide receiver 4 is Cordero Hodge. Cordero Hodge. Excuse me. Wide receiver 4 is Cordero Hodge. He can play the outside. He can play the slot. He plays special teams. He is extremely valuable to this team. He has reliable hands, good route running, and he can have good yards after the catch, as you saw against Tampa when he had the game-winning slam. So I think Cordero Hodge, HBCU product, of course. I think Cordero Hodge is going to lock up that wide receiver 4. Wide receiver 5 is interesting. Why? You have James Agnew for the slot, but Agnew can carve out a roster spot because of his ability to return kicks. Then you also have undrafted free agent rookie Nick Nash, as well as other players that we got. If you remember, we drafted, I think, Casey Washington out of Illinois, who they were really high on last year, there as well. I like Nick Nash. Nick Nash, if you don't know, is the Triple Crown winner, I think, from San Jose State. He had most catches, most receiving yards, and most yards per catch, if I'm not mistaken. Triple Crown winner in college. Went undrafted. He's like 6'4", 225. He's a really big possession receiver. He reminds me of Drake London in the body build and style of play. He's a guy that can go up and high point the pass, and bring in the contested catch. He's a great route runner. He just doesn't have a lot of speed. But when you have a young quarterback, let me tell you, if Nick Nash can carve out a role as a good route runner, a Keenan Allen type player who can just get open within the 5 to 15 yard range, man, let me tell you, that would be fantastic. And you're going to have to play special teams some kind of way. But I would love for Nick Nash to make the active roster, the 53-man roster at the end of the season. I just don't know if there's a path for him to do that. With Carlos Washington, with Chris Blair, who was here last year, with Dylan Drummond, Casey Washington, Nick Nash, Jamal Agnew, Jesse Matthews, Ray McLeod, Darnell Mooney, Drake London. There's just so many players in that wide receiver room, unless he becomes the steal of all steals. If he has a Victor Cruz type preseason, then yeah, you got to keep him and you got to make some decisions. But I don't know if it's in the cards for him to make the active roster. Now, if he plays well, I expect for him to be on the practice squad, but you kind of got to play chess a little bit with him, right? Because if you put him on the practice squad, I believe somebody else can sign him to the active roster, which is what you don't want to do. You don't really want to lose Nick Nash. So it's going to be interesting, the storyline surrounding him. I'm sure he's going to get a whole lot of opportunities to play and solidify himself, and maybe he becomes the 5th wide receiver if we keep 5 on the roster, the depth chart going forward. The other undrafted rookie free agent is Josh Simon. Now, y'all might be wondering, who is Josh Simon? He's not even on the depth chart. Josh Simon is an athletic freak from the University of South Carolina. He played tight end, where he's definitely a receiving tight end, but he's really physical. He's like a more athletic Jonnu Smith type player. He makes contested catches. He's tall, he's rangy. He can make he runs a lot of routes. He runs routes like a wide receiver, but he went undrafted because this draft was so deep defensively. So I'm looking for him to try to get the 3rd tight end spot. You have Kyle Pitts and Charlie Warner. I think Charlie Warner is really 1B at this point. Kyle Pitts is 1A. Charlie Warner is 1B. But behind those two, you got Felipe Franks. Florida fans don't even like him. And then you have Tegan Quitoriano. Now, they did have some buzz about him working with Kirk Cousins, but if I am an undrafted rookie free agent like Josh Simon, then maybe I try to carve my roster spot as the 3rd tight end. You're going to have to block. You already have a tight end, Kyle Pitts, who's blocking his probably like Madden rating 70, 65, somewhere in there. So if you're Josh Simon, you got to figure out a way to get on the field special teams wise, and you got to figure out a way to get on the field and prove yourself blocking. This offensive camp is going to be fun. I can't wait to talk until we get to preseason games and we can talk about us playing the Lions, the Cowboys, and the Titans. That's going to be fun. I can't wait to see how all of these formations and schemes and everything come out. A lot of people are talking about the progression of Michael Penix Jr., Bijan Robinson, and everybody. But again, as I brought up before, Zach Robinson, offensive coordinator, this is year 2 in his system too, right? This is the first time OC. This is year 2 in his system too. He now has a whole off season to be able to understand the nuances of Michael Penix Jr. and Bijan Robinson and Tyler Allgeier. I think a lot of times last year I don't want to say dialed it back, even though that's probably the correct phrase, but there are a lot of aspects of the offense that a lot of people are saying the reason we didn't break them out is because Kirk Cousins couldn't move or Michael Penix Jr. just didn't have enough reps in the offense. And Zach Robinson also had to learn how to call plays. Year 2, full preparation. A lot of those reasons that will be accepted for poor performance will not be accepted going forward. This team is loaded offensively. I can't wait for us to figure it all out. I know we're going to figure it all out. And I think this team could probably have a top 5 offense. Y'all let me know in the comments of the video. Do you think the Atlanta Falcons will have a top 5 offense this year? I do. I think we're going to have a top 3 offense. I think it's going to be scary. I think the NFC South is better than a lot of people think. But y'all make sure y'all follow, like, and subscribe the IT Media Network and the Splashcast. The Splashcast will be coming out with a preview for the NFCs for all of the NFL season, as well as college football going forward too. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the training camp preview for offense. We talked about what we're looking for in training camp leading up to the first preseason game. One thing we're talking about is Michael Penix Jr. Can he gel with all of our talent around him? Can he bring out the best in Kyle Pitts? Our running backs, we can't wait to see how they can work together. Now, the third running back option is going to be interesting. We cut a lot of players this year. We got Carlos Washington as third and Elijah Dotson right now. We have a couple other players on the practice squad contracts vying for roster spots as well. So behind Allgeier and Bijan, there's some good depth chart battles that will happen. And of course, we talked about depth chart battles when it comes to the QB3. So with that being said, y'all make sure y'all look out for the defensive episode, or episode 2 of this mini series, which is going to be the defense, which is reloaded. We'll talk about the new faces. We'll talk about veterans moving on, and we'll talk about the new scheme and see what these guys can do moving forward. Y'all, love y'all, appreciate it. Y'all remember, like, follow, subscribe. Peace.